Hello to all creative YouTubers. As some of you may know, I've recently moved to France and a new French friend of mine have lent me this Japanese pattern cutting book with some beautiful patterns in. And I've spotted this design which I thought, I think I'd quite like to have that pattern. And I'm going to show you how to trace off a pattern using their crazy method, because I can't read Japanese, so I'm just having to work it out. I've never done this before, but I'm going to give it my best shot. The same pattern can also look like this in different fabrics. Now, as you can see, there's a kind of shaped top piece and pleats going into that seam, and I think it's going to look rather lovely, and it could just look very different depending on what fabric you make it out of. I like the lace they have at the bottom here. So I'm kind of guessing from this writing that the G at the end I have to find on the pattern. So the one sheet of paper they give you looks a bit like this, everything overlapping from all the patterns that are in that one book. And you'll see I can spot a few G's. So here you can see the different patterns it's relating to, and then small, medium and large. So there's different lines depending on what size you are. And then here this line comes off of the same pattern, but it's got J, so I don't need that one because that's a J. And this scoop looks like it's the front scoop that comes down to the neck, and that looks like the centre front. And here's another G down here. And this bit looks like the centre back with the slightly higher scoop of the back neck, and that's the shoulder and the armhole. So now I'm going to decide whether I want small, medium or large to trace off. Okay, so I've just done some measurements of my bust because that's important for it to sit well over there. I'm not really sure what this chart means, but I'm just going to show you on the pattern. So I measured from under the armhole here all the way across. I'm presuming they don't have any seam allowances on these. And then adding to that the same small measurement I just checked. So times 2 of that, times 2 of the front, made 91 centimetres in total. I put that around my bust and I checked it, and it was just a little bit too tight for me. So then the medium measurement, which you can see is a little bit further out, came to 96, which is a tiny bit too big, jumping between the two, but it's always better to have more fabric than not enough, so I'm going to go with the medium. So I would normally do this on a lovely big table. I don't have a big table at the moment, so I'm doing it directly on the floor. A little tip, if you put a white piece of paper underneath your pattern piece, it helps you to see the black line more clearly. And then I'm going to put my top sheet of paper over the top of the pattern piece I'm tracing through. I'm going to use my very fine clicky pencil, as I call it, to mark off the main points. So the point down there, I can draw that line with a ruler afterwards. There's no point me trying to trace every single piece. If it's a curve, then yes, I'll do the curve through the paper exactly. If it's straight, I'll use my ruler, it's quicker. So you can see I sketched the curves. This is a bit stronger and that's stronger. I used my ruler for that, my pattern master, which is just here. And then you can see I've got this on a 90-degree angle from the centre front along the hem mark, and you can see it's not straight. So those points I'm just going to curve up and make it flow round smoothly. And then that piece is nearly done. So this is G. And if you look at their layout on the fabric, just here, they've told you what the seam allowances are. So 0.7, 1 centimetre, 1 centimetre. I presume that's the same along the bottom. And the same here. Now, I couldn't find this pattern piece, and I don't think there is one for the bottom part of the dress. So it's suggesting 85 centimetres down in length, 76 across, and I presume the same again here for front and back, so that's seamed up, and the 1 centimetre seam allowance is around the edge. So you have to make that yourself with measurements and maybe chalking it on. So instead of kind of guessing the 0.7 with my scissors when I'm cutting it out on the fabric, I'd much prefer to draw it on the fabric. So, sorry, draw it onto my paper and then cut it out exactly. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so when I do my sewing, I've decided I didn't want to do 0.7 around here. I want to keep them all 1 centimetre, and then I know where I am. It's just kind of quicker and easier with sewing. So I've done them all 1 centimetre, and I've also realised, if you see here, I've written fold to that line, because when you come to the book, here, that's all one piece, but here, it's not all one piece. So I'm going to fold my fabric and put this on the fold when I'm cutting it out, like that, instead of folding my paper and making it double and making this one whole piece going across the body of the front of the body. I've also added the grain line, which I've decided to put in line with the centre front, but I think on the pattern they've had it going the other way, so it doesn't really matter that much one way or the other. It depends on maybe your fabric pattern, which way you'd prefer to make the stripes, for example. And then I've just called it Japanese dress / top, medium, Joe, December 2016, so that I remember, you know, my weight or my size at that point. And I know it's not any other pattern. So back to the lay plan. I was racking my brains to try and find this 60 centimetres by 4 centimetres. Can't find it anywhere. Again, these bias binding strips aren't on this huge pattern here that I'm tracing off. So the only thing they have is that bit, which personally I don't mind, because when I'm sewing I might buy some separate binding or cut it myself, and I do that quite, you know, I just make sure it's long enough. I don't actually cut it to length. I cut it down once I've sewn it together and I know where the join is going to be to make the tube around the armhole, for example. So this obviously has to be chalked out, as does that. So I think that's pretty much it. How to use a Japanese pattern book with their pattern, and how to basically work out all these lines. I hope that was useful. I'm going to do a different design now in my own time, because there's so many good ones in that book. There's a beautiful apron. I'll show it to you quickly, hang on. So they've got 2 images of it. This one is a plain linen, and it's got pleats going into this square here that sits over the chest, and then it crosses over the back, and you've got this lovely curve that comes around. They've got some big pockets. And then the other version is with black, and they've added this detailing here with the lace, which looks rather pretty. So depending on what fabric you choose, that could be really nice. And you could even wear it as a kind of dress over a top. It doesn't actually have to be an apron. So I like that. I'm going to trace that one off too. So this skirt's pretty cool. It actually overlaps here. You can see it overlapping, and then it's just bunched in. It's not a good length for me, but I can change the length to make it shorter. And maybe use a fabric that's not as thick as what they've got here, so it's a bit more flowing. And this tunic's really sweet. They've done it in a stripe with a cropped sleeve, and you can see they've put the stripes in a different direction over the chest. It's a similar theme with the bunching in, but I like it. You could layer it up in the summer. Lovely. So guys, if you're interested, this is the ISBN number and the special code. I don't know how much it was, but my friend found it online. Have fun!